My name is Samantha Bass. I'm owner of Samantha's Modeling. You are watching AccessTV.org.
Hi, I'm Nyesha McCauley, and you're watching AccessTV.org.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Miss Cleo's Storytelling Corner. I have wonderful guests for you today, and I'll introduce her in just one moment. Before that, I just have to do a shout out to Ashley, who has graduated and got her MSW and is now working in New York City. Congratulations, Ashley. I'm very proud of you. And now our guest that we have today is Sara deBeer, and she's a wonderful storyteller, and I met her, I don't know how many years ago, at a storytelling festival, and she's going to tell you some things about herself and about the storytelling festival that's coming up in next month.
Yeah,
so Sara?
end of April. Great opportunity to learn about stories, to see many, many different storytellers. One of the things I like about the festival is that you go and you hear a whole lot of different people telling different kinds of stories and telling them different ways, and it's very liberating.
That is that's one of the things that when I first started going to the Storytelling Festival, realizing how many different kinds of storytellers there are, that kind of frees you up to be who you are.
Yeah, because you kind of say, oh, I could never tell a story like that, but I might be able to tell a story like that. Oh, I definitely could tell a story like that.
Right,
you know?
Right.
And there's workshops, so people want to explore different things. We have a strand this year for teachers, and there's scholarships available for teachers, and some of them will pay the full admission price to the festival. So people should check in at the Connecticut Storytelling Center's website. If they Google Connecticut Storytelling Center, that's probably the best way to find it.
Okay. Is it still that Friday night storytelling, or hours of storytelling with the main storyteller for the weekend? Do they still do that?
Well, this year we're trying something a little different. Instead of having one person who's the main storyteller, we're highlighting some of our own, and also a few people who are from out of state. But there's a lot more storytellers, and not such a strong focus on one person.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah. We have a new thing now at the festival called the Mid-9 Cabaret. And you go and there's wine and there's little cheese and crackers, and it's kind of a little different.
That really sounds wonderful. You know what it sounds like to me? It sounds, going to the festival for the first time and being a storyteller, it took me years to tell a story in front of storytellers. Years. I said I will never do it because I'll be terrible. But once you're there and you're comfortable and you hear the different storytellers and the way you have it set up now, someone new coming in, they could say, well, maybe I have some hope in telling stories here.
And we actually have something called the Campus Slammer, where college students
I read
across
that.
the state are competing with 5-minute stories, and then the ones who are judged to be the strongest tellers wind up coming for the final campus slam right at the festival. So we're doing all kinds of things.
Oh, that's
always
great.
changing, always.
And I hear you're in Hartford too. Are you in Hartford?
The festival, you mean, or the we sponsor events?
Oh, is
Yeah,
I read something
yeah.
about Hartford and the Storytelling Center. So, so you're doing a lot of things in Hartford now.
It's different things, different parts of the state to just bring it out there.
Oh,
There's nothing planned at the moment.
Oh, okay.
But I'm out there telling stories.
Okay. How did Celebration go this year?
Celebration was, I was at a couple different celebrations. We're doing them a little differently too. That we're mostly based in libraries and community organizations, and they do the production side of things.
Oh, okay.
And we're in independent and assisted living places, and we're doing programs for children in the libraries. So it's the whole month of November is filled with storytelling in all different parts of the state.
Oh, that is wonderful. I wish we had time to talk about how that began, but we're going to have to get to your story.
Okay.
Very shortly. So, thank you for coming, and it was wonderful talking to you. And then maybe after a little while, we can talk to you again on the second half of the program.
That'd be fun.
But right now, we're going to sit back, relax, and listen to Sara deBeer. Sara deBeer, tell us a wonderful story.
Well, you know, this weather. We had that one warm day, and then it got cold again. And I thought we need a little reminder of what things are like in the springtime. So this is the story that I picked out for you. And it goes like this. There was once a man who loved being out in the forest and learning everything he could about creation. And he spent time with the trees, and he spent time with the animals, he spent time with the birds. Didn't spend a lot of time with people. He stayed out in the woods and just took in everything. He learned the rocks that he could find. He learned how to be quiet. One day a messenger came to him from the king. And the messenger said, "The king requires your assistance." And this man, whose name was Zusya, was very reluctant to leave his place in the woods, but the king commanded him. And so he followed the messenger, and they arrived at the palace. And he was shown behind the palace, and there, to his amazement, was an enormous cage, very ornate, filled with birds of every description, of every color, of every size. The king sat on a bench, watching the birds, gazing at the birds. Zusya went over to the king and said, "Your Majesty, you sent for me? I am Zusya." And the king said, "Oh, I'm so glad that you came. I need your help desperately. You see these birds? Some were collected by my grandfather, and some were collected by my father, and I've continued to add birds to the collection. They come from every part of the world. And I love these birds. I love to sit and watch these birds. But I'm troubled by these birds because not one of these birds ever sings. And we've tried many ways to get these birds to sing. We've changed their food. We've put in little swings and other sorts of objects that they could use to entertain themselves. We cannot discover what the secret is to make them sing. Zusya looked at the king, and he said, "If you want these birds to sing, you must release them from the cage and let them fly into freedom." The king said, "I can't do that. These are birds that have been collected by my family. I sit here for hours watching these birds. I cannot let the birds out of the cage." And Zusya said then, "You will never hear them sing." And the king thought long and hard. And his desire to hear those birds sing overcame his reluctance to keep them, his reluctance to free them, his desire to keep them in the cage. And so he gave the command, and the doors of that cage were opened, and the birds began to fly out into freedom. And as each bird flew out and left that cage behind, it began its own song. And they rushed out, and the king listened, and it was like a whole orchestra of music that he was hearing. But Zusya, who had spent years listening to the sounds of nature, could hear each bird's song distinctly and separately. And he listened to the song of each one of those birds as it left the cage and flew into freedom. When the last bird had flown away, the king sat in awe of the music that he had heard. He thanked Zusya. He offered to pay him, but Zusya said, "I have no need for money." And Zusya turned and traveled back to his own little hut and sat, and in his memory he heard each of those songs. And when he wanted to, he could summon up the memory of a particular bird and hear the song that that particular bird sang as it flew from the cage into its own freedom.
That was a wonderful story. Thank you very much. Very much. And we will be back with Sara deBeer in just a moment. We're just going to take a little break. Be right back.
I'm very happy to be here tonight to congratulate and support AccessTV.org. AccessTV.org has reached hundreds and thousands of people. It's done a great job informing the community about important issues in our city, our state, and our nation. I congratulate Stan McCauley and Nyesha for the job they've done. And now with their new format, which will reach many more people and which will be available through many more formats, the future is very bright for AccessTV.org. Congratulations, and may you continue your mission of informing our community. Thank you very much.
Welcome back. We're back again on Miss Cleo's Storytelling Corner. And I'm going to tell you a little story today about a kingdom and in this kingdom, they had no rules, and they had no laws, and they had no king. But it was a beautiful little kingdom. You know, they had beautiful mountains and birds and miles of beaches with perfect waves and trees, gorgeous trees that you could climb, wonderful trees for climbing. And one day, this little boy, his name was Alex, him and his family went out and to have ice cream cones because they had many benches, enough for everyone to sit on. So they were sitting down eating their ice cream, and this man came up, a little funny looking man. He did a little jig in front of Alex and pushed his hand and snatched his chocolate ice cream and ran away. And Alex said, hey, did you see that? Father said, that sure was a smooth move. Mother said, oh, I guess he really wanted some ice cream today. And his big sister said, you know, you got to be careful with people who do that funny little dance in front of you. And Alex, he just looked at them. So he looked over and snatched his sister's ice cream and started eating it. Well, his sister thought nothing of snatching her mother's ice cream and started licking that. And Father, looking at all of this, put his ice cream in his mouth and started chewing really fast and said, and nobody got Father's ice cream. Well, Alex and big sister kept looking over at Mother because she wasn't going to pull anything on them. Oh, she kind of scratched her head and she kind of did a little yawn, and her hand went past big sister and patted Alex on the back. His ice cream went up in the air, and Mother caught his ice cream in her mouth and wiped her mouth and said, Alex said, you know, there's got to be a better way. There has just got to be a better way. I mean, nobody got punished because, of course, there were no laws and there were no rules. And when they were going home, Mother, they was stopped at this green light. But, of course, you could do anything you want at the green light. You can go, you could stop, because everybody did exactly what they wanted because there was no laws and there was no rules. So Mother decided to go. Well, the truck in front of her decided to stop. And bam! A big crash. And Alex, he flew up and landed in a tree, and he was just holding on by one leg. Oh, he just got so excited. But then he said, I might as well just relax because there's no way for me to get down until they get a ladder or something up in this big tree. And he looked around, and there were other people in the trees. And he looked over, and there was someone playing. There were people playing a baseball game, and they were running back and forth, and they were hitting. A hit was a hit. A hit may be an out. There were people sitting in the field with shovels and pails and all kinds of things, and the score was 6, or maybe it was 200, whatever you wanted it to be, that's what it was, because of course there was no rules and there was no laws. So Alex started screaming, there has got to be a better way. There has just got to be a better way. And of course, you know, Alex was the youngest, and he seemed to be the only one that noticed that something wasn't quite right, that there had to be a better way of doing this than what they were doing. And he was screaming and screaming, and while he was screaming, they were taking him down from that tree. And Mother said, Alex, you're down from the tree. Take it easy, it's okay. So when they got home, Alex said, I'm going to my room, and I'm not coming out until I fix it. Until I finish. And Sister said, finish what? Mother said, well, what are you going to finish? Father said, what is he talking about? And it got all around that this little young boy was in a room, and he was going to stay there till he finished, and nobody knew what he was finishing. So finally he came down 2.5 hours later, and he had this book in his hand. And he said, I've finished. And people said, what? Finished what? I've made a bunch of rules and 3 laws. 1, in baseball, there are 3 hits and 4 balls. 9 players on each team, and nobody could sit on the field with a pail and a shovel. And Mother and Father said, well, that was my favorite part, a pail and a shovel. So, oh, and I'm not coming out until you agree. And he went back into his room and he shut the door. And people thought about it. Well, it may not be too bad. I don't know. Maybe. Okay. So he comes out of his room. And they start following out. And the rules say, well, what's the laws? 3 laws. Green light means go and red light means stop. And second law is you can't take anybody's ice cream. And the third law is that everybody has to come over to my house at 12 noon every single day and dance and sing my songs that I write and say, "Hail Alex, he's a heck of a guy." Well, all the rules went very well. Law 1 went well and Law 2 went well. But now that third law, that was a little tough. People started not coming to Alex's house every afternoon at noon. And then he said, "Why aren't you coming?" And they said, "Oh, I'm sick. Oh, I have a headache. Oh, my shovel and pail is dirty. I have to get it cleaned." He said, "Then you have to bring me proof." So they brought him proof from the doctor, but his sister could not give him proof for that pail and that shovel. So she said, "Well, Alex, I don't like this law. It doesn't make any sense. Why do we have to they have to come to our house every day and sing and dance and say, 'Hail Alex, he's a heck of a guy'? I don't like that law. That's not." Alex said, "Well, that's a fun law. It's not fun to me." And so other people said, "Well, it's not too much fun for me either." So Alex said, "Okay, then what we'll do, we'll make a law. You don't come to my house at 12 o'clock, and you don't sing my songs, and you don't sing, 'Hail Alex, he's a heck of a guy.'" Well, sisters, they said, "Hooray, hooray." Sister said, no, I don't like that law either, because what's the sense in that law? It doesn't do anything. It's not for anything. It's just a senseless law. Why are you stopping people from coming to our house if they want to come to our house? So Alex said, "Okay, we'll kick that law out." So they got rid of that law. And after that, they said, "Well, you know, this stuff is too important for just one person to make the laws and the rules." So everybody had a say in what the laws were and what the rules were. And that was better. And Alex became a country western singer, and his sister grew up and she became the senior partner in the first law firm of that kingdom. And Mom and Dad, they became the empires. Oh, what a day. There was, in that kingdom, there were some laws and there were some rules. And they lived lawfully ever after in that kingdom. Now, they still didn't have a king, but that's a story for another day. So maybe we'll talk about that king someday. But right now, we're going to say goodbye to Sara deBeer and thank her very much for being on this show, and looking forward to having a lot of storytellers and a lot of people come in and tell you stories, different kinds of stories, because as many kinds of people as there are, that's how many different kinds of storytellers there are. So we'll see the whole gamut of storytellers. Well, we'll try. Miss Cleo will try to get them in here. So we thank you very much, Sara, for coming and being on the show.
Well, I love being here.
Oh,
thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so much. And we'll be seeing you next time. And remember, read a little, write a little. Take care.